Friends, this video will play out. It's about 11 minutes duration. Please watch this video. There's going to be an interactive session, and please post your questions in the chat box so that we can answer all the queries. We have enough time for every scenario, and we can discuss elaborately every scenario. But we want meaningful interaction. Unfortunately, on a virtual platform, we cannot be able to see you, but at least your questions will be reflected on our screen, and we will be answering most of the queries. Well, this simulation, as I said earlier, was carried out at GVK MRI Simulation Center, and this is a 4G sim mom, a pregnant patient. So virtually, you can create any simulation on this mannequin, and you can create a real life situation. So let us watch this first scenario, where we have Dr. Manokant and the team going to anesthetize this lady.
She is Mrs. Sujata, 27-year-old, previous cesarean section done under general anesthesia 2 years ago. Now she has come, she's a term pregnancy. 7 years back, she had and about 40. Okay. You take nice deep breaths, very good. Yeah, it's given, sir. Okay. 2-3 minutes enough. Sujata, we'll start giving you some medication and you'll fall asleep, okay? Okay. You have to perform.
Any allergies, sir?
No allergies. Patient has no allergies.
Any difficult intubation?
Yes, you are anticipating some difficulty in intubation.
Okay. Any risk of aspiration, sir?
Aspiration risk is present.
Okay. Risk of blood loss, ma'am?
It's always average.
Okay, ma'am. What is the blood group, ma'am?
A positive.
Any antibiotics started, ma'am?
Yeah,
As per protocol?
Simvaxin 1.5.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
So we see the instrument, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so
I'm just checking the instruments.
machine check the machine check Sheena? Yes, sir. Okay. Do you have all the emergency air equipment? All okay. Fine. Suction is ready? Yes. It's okay. Okay, let's start pre-medication. I'll give some oxygen. Yes. Sujata, I'm just giving you some oxygen. Keep taking nice deep breaths, okay? Give glyco 0.2 and the Xylocat 40 mg. Keep taking nice deep breaths. Yeah, glyco 0.2 given. Okay. And Xylocat 40. Okay. Keep taking nice deep breaths. Very good. Yeah, it's given, sir. Okay. 3 minutes enough. Sujata, we will start giving you some medication and you'll fall asleep, okay? Okay. You have propofol and choline, succinate choline 100 mg, propofol 150 mg. Yeah. Now slowly you'll fall asleep. Propofol 150 mg? Yes, I'm starting giving propofol. When I'm falling asleep, I'll take the bag. Started giving corridor. Okay. Okay. Scoring given. Okay. Just not ventilating, just holding the mask now. Okay, I can see some fasciculations. Okay, I'll gently ventilate and give some small. Okay, let's take the tube and intubate now. Looks like a little bit difficult. Let me just see. Record pressure? Yes. Yeah. No, I can't see. Just remove it. Saturation is 89, sir. That's okay. So you just try once. Okay, anyway, just push it in. Just hope it is in the through the water. Yes. Maybe it is your. Listen, look for chest raise. It's not present. Yeah, it should have been there. Let's check once again. No, it's not. Sure? Yes. Is it zero to coming? No, it is zero to not coming. Let me just take it not in the.
Any problem, sir?
No, we are okay. Don't worry. David, just ventilate once again. Just
I'm ventilating, sir. I am ventilating, sir.
Okay. Do you see chest raise? I can't see the chest raise. Let me just attempt once again. Give me that. Oh God. Give me section. Lot of secretions.
Give the section, sir.
Okay. Now what is the saturation? Okay. Can't see you.
Saturation 64.
Okay, let's put that in. We didn't see the vocal cord actually. Just push in the tube. You can just like single. Can't see the tube also.
Do you want any help?
Let me just check once again. Take the bus. Okay. Okay, let's see if we are doing it. Come on, give properly. Okay, call somebody from health.
Yes, call for help.
Because
Hey, give properly, man. Unable to ventilate, sir. You just chin lift and chest rise. Can you remove the pillow, please? Can you remove the pillow? Slowly, gently, no issue. Saturation is still not too low. It's okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Chin lift. Okay. Jaw thrust. Gently ventilate. Don't panic. Okay. So you already attempted twice, right? Yeah. Can you put an LM? Why don't you put an LM? Okay. Take my ladies. Okay. Should I help you out or you do it? No, it's okay. I'll do it. Gently. Okay. Lubricate it properly. Okay. See that. Yeah, can you please insert the element? Give 100% oxygen, please. Yeah, okay. Can I give the chest rise scene? Yeah, I can see some chest rise. Just Oscar, like one. 2-6. Secure the element. I can see the chest rise. Okay, Dr. Vidya. Dr. Vidya, I think there's a information. Okay. Can we awaken the patient or you want to proceed, Dr. Vidya?
Sir, actually, she's IUGR with doctor changes, sir. So we have to do the case, sir.
Okay.
Can't postpone.
Okay, I think she's just coming out of subsabithonium. Just give 15 grams of hydroxyurea. Yes. 1.5. Okay, 1.5. And this was stressful.
Okay, sir.
Oh my God. Thank God you for the energy.
So we will-
Just couldn't remember the 11 part. Yeah, that's what I will. Yeah, events at least aspirate. I don't think so. It's actually timing out, please. Can you do the time out, please?
Now the present ECG is sinus rhythm. Our pulse rate is 120, BP has come to 130 by 88, saturation is 94, and the E2 has sustained now 38.
Okay, refrigeration is here, right?
Yes, sir. Please,
Yeah.
sir.
Stop that on the case. Hydroxyurea. Yeah, please deliver the baby.
Yes, sir.
15 mg hydroxyurea.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you need any final pressure, doctor?
No, sir. It's coming, sir.
Give oxytocin 3 units, no, slowly. 3 units. Yeah, 3 units slowly. As the uterus retracting, give pendulum 100 micrograms.
Ma'am?
Give 100 micrograms.
Hand of the baby?
Yeah, pendulum 100 mics. Yeah, started giving. You are ondansetron also, 8 milligrams ondansetron and dexamethasone 8 milligrams. I think for benefit we'll just give metronidazole. Okay. Metronidazole. Is the uterus okay?
Yes, sir. It's retracting, sir.
Okay. Ondansetron 8 mg. Okay.
Dr. Abgar is good. Baby's active.
What does are the necessary, doctor? Do you think we need to do what does gas analysis?
Sir, as you said, we are sending, sir.
Okay. One of them, do you think we need to consult the family?
Yeah, I think we should leave the family.
Because there is a possibility that patient might have aspirated because saturation almost fell to 65
and please plaster the eyes.
But I hope if everything is fine, sir. I suctioned well. But let's see.
Yeah. Do you think we need to give metronidazole?
Metrogen, okay, we'll give.
Give 500 milligrams of metrogen. 5 milligrams. And surgery is over, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Check the instrument, sister. I'm closing. I'm checking the.
Can you do the sign out, please?
Doctor, there is no acidosis. Lactate is normal.
Great. Thanks, Doctor.
It's done, sir.
Sign out.
Instrument sound is correct.
Okay. Sign out, please. Yeah. So basically, I want the family to be there in the counseling room, and there is a possibility that we may have to continue ventilation for a short while. We need to anticipate risk of aspiration. So the plan is to shift her to ICU. We will not rotate. I don't want her to be in the recovery room. We'll shift her to ICU.
We'll continue the antibiotic. Metrogen and
Because stats are still at 94%. We may have to give NIV or bypass for a short while. And deep basis we may have to do or just X-ray and other things as well. So with this counsel the family. All on the same page?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So once she is fully awake, then we will extubate. Okay, okay. Manohar, you are asking about putting a tube against the cell.
Yeah, I thought
We will discuss about it later.
Okay.
So Meera, I don't want you to again extubate now. Let me fully awake.
Okay.
Just cut off sevoflurane. Yes. Give 100% oxygen. I'll get the counselor. You can join me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manokant and Dr. Sunil. That was really a very nicely, realistically conducted scenario. And so the topic for discussion for the purpose of all the delegates and the faculty who are watching is now, so this is a case where it is a cesarean section where a general anesthesia has been planned. It turned out to be an unanticipated difficult intubation, which has resulted in aspiration. So what we will now go through is we will just replay the scenario and stop it at different points and see what was right, what was well managed at every point of time, and what could have been better to prevent this complication. So I will just share my screen so we can stop it.
Yeah, you'll share your screen.
You want to stop? I can tell you the timings at which you need to stop. You can also share, Dr. Sunil.
Okay.
We can first play the initial two from
This is
0 to
Sujata, 27-year-old, previous cesarean section done under general anesthesia 2 years ago. Now she has come, she's term pregnancy. 7 years back, she had a history of cox spine from D12 to L4, for which she underwent lumbar fixation and subsequently ATD was continued for almost 14 months. She is requesting for GA. Pre-release check is over and surgical side also patient has been cleared. The patient is willing to the theatre.
Okay. Hello, Sujata. I'm Dr. Manokant, anesthetist. Yeah, so I'm just going through your pre-anesthetic checkup. Looks like everything is fine, except for that you had surgery in your back few years back, right?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so we'll just give you general anesthesia, that is full body anesthesia. We'll give injection through the hand and you'll fall asleep. We'll put a breathing tube through your mouth for oxygenation and then we'll do the surgery, okay?
Okay.
Can you just open your mouth and show me once? Show me and stick out your tongue. Okay, everything looks fine. It should go smoothly, okay?
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Vidya, I'm operating surgeon.
Hello.
From our side, the patient is fine.
Okay, so let's do the sign-in.
Sister, please get the
Is the
credit.
patient identified, sir?
The patient is identified.
Is the monitor connected?
Monitors are attached. I just started one now.
Anesthesia, oxygen check.
Anesthesia oxygen. Yes, everything is checked. Everything
Any
is fine.
allergies, sir?
No allergies. Patient has no allergies.
Any difficult intubations?
Yes, I'm anticipating some difficulty in intubation.
Okay, any risk of aspiration, sir?
Aspiration risk is present.
Okay, risk of blood loss, ma'am?
It's always average.
Okay, ma'am, what is the blood group, ma'am?
A positive.
Any antibiotics started, ma'am? As
Yeah,
per protocol?
Cinnamon 1.5.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Okay.
So can we just stop it here, Dr. Sunil?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so we will just discuss the main problems this patient had was in relation to the airway and the aspiration risk. So can we just discuss if the pre-operative preparation and planning was all right to manage a difficult airway and an aspiration risk? Dr. Manokant, what are your inputs on this?
Yeah, I think I think I have gone through the pre-anesthetic checkup, but this is probably the first time I'm seeing the patient in the OT. My colleague earlier had done a pre-anesthetic checkup. So when the patient was in, I think I have asked the patient. I said that I have gone through your PAC and I was quite satisfied. But and I saw her airway also while she was lying on the bed, and I thought I was good to go. Even the airway equipment, I just asked my technician if he is all airway equipment and anesthesia machine, but I didn't do it myself. So my technician said he has all the equipment that's needed. So I think pre-anesthetic checkup was pretty okay for what I've done. This is what we all do usually, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, I'm sure you enacted a lot of things just to purposely to create some problems. We know you always do your pre-operative assessment. Purposely, I'm sure Manokant has created a lot of lapses so that we can, discuss about it. He's acted like a junior trainee or a resident for the simulation alone. I would like to make that very clear for the benefit of everyone.
that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great
So,
actor.
so the thing is, in relation to the aspiration risk, like we don't have any information on the nil per oral status of the patient. Has anti-aspiration prophylaxis been given? What has been given? When it has been given? We have not specifically looked into that history, though. If you would have noticed, I think when they asked during the sign-in, was there an aspiration risk? We felt yes, there was an aspiration risk, but then we have not made very sure whether an anti-aspiration prophylaxis is given or not. We should have probably checked on that. What do you think, Dr. Sunil, in relation to the aspiration?
Absolutely. In fact, that is one of the STEM. There is a part of sign-in about antacid prophylaxis is given or not, and NPO status also. So these two things were specifically deleted so that we can delete it.
Yes, yes.
So yes, every patient or every patient who is willing to the theater, be it emergency or elective, has to receive acid aspirin prophylaxis. If it is an elective case, oral prophylaxis. If it is an emergency, yes, intravenous medications. And the drugs or the medication that we use are ranitidine and metoclopramide, or if you want, you can use omeprazole and metoclopramide. But one prokinetic along with the proton pump inhibitor or H2 blocker is mandatory, because we all know that even a little bit of alkalinization, it can minimize the lung damage in case if there is an aspiration.
But there are also a lot of things which went correctly. Like everything was checked. The anesthesia machine has been checked. He checked if there was a suction is available. The monitoring was checked. The sign-in was done. So there are a lot of good things, and there is a good communication within the team. So if you look at the good things which has happened in the pre-anesthetic assessment, yes, assessment has been done properly. A few aspects in relation to
importantly, introducing oneself to the patient and talking to the patient also is of paramount importance, because many a times we just ignore the patient and we talk amongst ourselves. So in this case, he has made every bit of introducing himself to the patient, telling the patient what he is doing, pre-oxygenating, putting the tube down the throat to improve oxygenation, and all those things have been explained. So good communication with the patient also is of paramount importance whenever you're giving either a general anesthetic or regional anesthesia. Paramount importance. Yes.
So the team seems to be working on the same page as far as communication is concerned. I think that was a very good teamwork and effective communication. A good pre-operative assessment. Probably a very small number of points have got missed here and there. Yeah. Now I think we will go to the intubation attempt now, the induction and intubation sequence.
Machine check the machine check Krishna?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have all the emergency air equipment?
All
Okay, fine. Suction is ready?
Yes, sir. It's okay.
Okay, let's start pre-medication. I'll give some oxygen.
Yes.
Sujata, I'm just giving you some oxygen. Keep taking nice deep breaths, okay? Give glyco 0.2 and the xylocat 40 mg. Keep taking nice deep breaths.
Glyco 0.2 given.
Okay.
And xylocat 40.
Okay. You take nice deep breaths, very good.
Yeah, it's given, sir.
3 minutes is up. Sujata will start giving you some medication and you'll fall asleep, okay? Okay. Propofol and Foley, Succinate Foley, 100 mg. Propofol 150 mg.
Yeah.
Now slowly you'll fall asleep.
Propofol.
150 mg.
Yes, sir. I'm starting giving propofol.
See her falling asleep. And take the bag.
Started giving slowly, bro.
Okay.
Slowly given.
Okay. Just not ventilating, just holding the mask now. Okay, I can see some fasciculations. Okay, and gently ventilate and use some water. Okay, let's take the tube and intubate now. Looks like a little bit difficult. Let me just see. Record pressure? Yes. Yeah. No, I can't see. Just remove it.
Saturation is 89, sir.
That's okay. So you just try once. Okay, anyway, just push it in. Just hope it is in the vocal part. Through the vocal. Yes.
Yeah, we'll stop it here again. Yeah, again, so the induction sequence, some things have gone right and some things have gone wrong. Manokant, you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah, so I think I think equipment check and all were done pretty well. The patient got a good 3 minutes of pre-oxygenation, and the communication between the anesthetist and the helper or the anesthesia technician were pretty good and were in tandem. Everything seemed like everything was going smooth. So patient was successfully induced, but now we can see that one of the important steps in induction for general anesthesia during cesarean section, we should have put the cricoid pressure at the time of induction. That was not done at that point. Then very casually, after muzzle relaxation, laryngoscope was introduced, and then the anesthetist realizes that he is facing a difficult airway scenario. But still, he notices that the saturation is falling, and he just then he asked the the technician to do this cricoid pressure, and then remove the cricoid pressure, and then it starts going down the spiral. Pushes the tube even when he doesn't have a good view of the larynx. So at this point, he starts panicking, and there could have been many steps that could have been done at this point to improve the vision of the larynx, but all those things were missed. And things starts going down the spiral, and saturation starts dropping. So yeah, we can discuss what are the things that we missed to improve the vision of the larynx, what could have been changed, or things could have been done in a much calmer way.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that you summarized very well. What were the do's and don'ts which happened during that period? Another thing I just wanted to bring was, what about face mask ventilation in such a situation? Rapid sequence induction and intubation, I think everyone would want to know that, is it usual practice to do, because you anticipated a difficult airway when the initial discussion was there. So you think it would have been better to also do a face mask ventilation, not exceeding pressures of 20 centimeters of water after the succinyl colon? I'm sure all the delegates would be keen in knowing that.
Yeah, so the things that I could have done is one thing is like when I had from after pre-oxygenation and induction. So we all know that we must do rapid sequence induction, which previously said that after scoling we don't usually ventilate, but just put the oxygen mask on the face, and once there is muzzle relaxant, you proceed with intubation. But now there have been modifications that are suggested. So one of those things are gentle ventilation. So it's always better to ventilate gently in a controlled situation than try to ventilate and rescue a scenario when there's already hypoxia and then you're ventilating in a very panicked way, then that's a sure shot recipe for disaster. So there's no problem. So an attender can hold the cricoid pressure and you can gently ventilate with airway pressures less than 20 centimeters of water. And once you are comfortably ventilating and and oxygenating, then you can proceed with intubation. So that now you know, if even if you fail to intubate, you can actually mask ventilate comfortably. So that's one advantage. And also you are because of the risk of hypoxemia, which happens quickly in pregnant patients, when if you pre-oxygenate adequately and if you are gently ventilating before intubation, the oxygen reserves are also well maintained.
Okay, so the right things were pre-oxygenation was done for 3 minutes with adequate flows. That was the right thing which was done. Face mask ventilation, initially it wasn't started, but somewhere down the line you did say, let us start ventilating, and you started ventilating with a face mask. So that was also done. And adequate anesthetic drug and relaxant was given. And there was a good closed loop communication. Like you said, propofol, and then he repeated it and said, yes, propofol so much was given, succinylcholine so much was given. And the thing which was missed was probably the cricoid pressure. And what about the position in which intubation was done? Would a head-up position would have been better to both to prevent aspiration risk?
We could do some few maneuvers to. So once you realize that your position is not adequate, you can do a calm mask ventilation and meanwhile recheck. So one few things that you have to look for is see the tragus is above the sternoid notch. So the head should be slightly up, and position your pillow such that your tragus is above the sternoid notch. You can, if the mother is too obese, you can put her in a ramping position and again check the tragus is above the sternoid notch. Or if you don't have a ramp, you can simply do a reverse Trendelenburg and then position your pillow such that the tragus is above the cricoid. So all these will improve your vision. Sometimes you may have to put the mother in a steep reverse Trendelenburg, and you may have to even stand on a stool so that the height is adequate for you to put the tube in.
And one more thing I feel is in an anticipated difficult intubation, we generally tend to follow all the steps and all the sequences. In an unanticipated difficult intubation, I think we get caught because we bypass many of the steps which are supposed to be followed. I think that would be one take-home point from it, that whatever steps are there, these have to be followed in all patients at all times, because we do not know when it can become a near miss and a critical incident. If you want to avoid it, we need to follow all the steps at all time. Always proper position, always pre-oxygenation, always cricoid pressure, adequate dose of drugs, and then the best attempt at the first laryngoscopy. Okay, shall we move on to the...
One more addition that I want to make is nowadays video laryngoscopes are being preferred as the first laryngoscope that needs to be used for intubation. So instead of trying with your regular scope, but of course they are expensive and not widely available. But wherever available, you should straight away use the video laryngoscope with a Stilett or a bougie.
Yes, that's again a very important point. The very first attempt is the best attempt. So probably if you have a video laryngoscope, it makes sense to use it for the very first attempt itself. We'll move to the rest of the second attempt.
One of the point which I would like to deliberate at this point is, yes, unplanned in difficult intubation is always going to be a challenge, as you miss or bypass many things. And similar situation happens when you have to intubate after a failed spinal, because they're not prepared mentally for plan B of general anesthetic. And I have noted that many a times the patient's head is at least about 1 foot below the head end of the table. So you have to do a laryngoscopy almost in the stretched hand. So see that plan B, if it is GA, the patient is well prepared, even if it's a failed spinal, whatever it is. So when it comes to airway management, we should not leave any gaps in management of airway. Should I continue playing the video?
Yes, we'll continue to see the second attempt.
Listen, look for chest raise.
She's not listening.
Yeah, it should have been there. Let's see, check once again.
No, it's not.
Sure?
Yes.
Is VGC2 coming? No, VGC2 is not coming. Let me just take it not in the queue. Any problem, sir? No, we are okay. Don't worry. David, just ventilate once again. Just
I'm ventilating, sir.
I am ventilating, sir.
Okay. Do you see chest raise? I can't see chest raise. Let me just start for a second. Give me that. Oh God, give me section. Lot of secretions.
I'm giving the section, sir.
Okay. Now what is the saturation? Okay. Can't see you.
Saturation 64.
Okay, let's put that in. Didn't see the open for saturation. Just push in the tube. Can't see the instrument also.
Do you want any help?
Let me just check once again.
I will stop here again.
Take the first. Okay, let's see if we are doing this.
You want to stop here?
I will stop here.
You properly.
Stop here. Okay, so this is the second attempt at laryngoscopy. So not much has changed between the first and second attempt. Like it is the same head and neck position, same laryngoscope. Even a stillet has not been used. So what I would like to bring it out here is at least the second attempt, you need to make some changes into the technique. You can modify the head and neck position. You have to make sure the tube is smaller or a stiletted tube is used, or switch over to a video laryngoscope or a different sized blade. Whereas if you see, nothing has been changed. And probably that is why the second attempt is not successful, because there was a fixation on intubating exactly like how. And I think even in the second time, two things have happened. One, I think visualization of cords is not there and still the endotracheal tube was put inside. And somebody is constantly asking if help is needed. There is a suggestion coming. But when you are in a crisis situation like that, many times you don't hear what others are suggesting and you don't answer appropriately. So that is another important thing where simulation helps in telling us what mistakes we are likely to make in managing. So any other things in the second intubation attempt, Dr. Manokant, which could have been better?
Yeah, so like you've said, there was nothing has changed from first attempt. And to add to that, when somebody was suggesting a help, there was a refusal to accept that the anesthetist needs help. So he was still trying to do it all by himself, and he didn't want it to call anyone still at that point. So those two are like fixation. So he was having some fixation error there. Yeah, I think those two are the important things.
So the one most important take-home point is when you're beginning to see trouble, please call for help at that point of time, and preferably a senior help. Any help is also fine, because two minds working and two people working are always better than one person trying to figure out what is going wrong. So I think even the IDA guidelines, they have a full call for help in the left side written. It is so important. I think the first thing, you're in trouble, whenever there is a beginning of a critical incident, I think if you call for help in the earlier stages, we can prevent a problem from happening. I think that's another very important point which was brought out. We'll go to the rest of the scenario.
So we call somebody from help.
Yes, call for help.
Hey, use properly, man. Suddenly I'm unable to ventilate, sir. Just chin lift and chest rise. Can you remove the pillow, please? Can you remove the pillow? Slowly, gently, no issue. Saturation is still not too low, not too low. It's okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Chin lift. Okay. Long rest. Gently ventilate. Don't panic. Okay. So your every interpret noise, right? Yeah. Can you put a relay with it? Why don't you put a relay? Okay. Take him already. Okay. Should I help you out or will you do it? No, it's okay. I'll do it. Gently. Okay. Lubricate it properly. Let me see. Okay. See here. Yeah, can you please insert the element? Give 100% oxygen, please. Yeah. Okay. Can you give the chest rise scene? Yeah, you can see some chest rise. Just oscillate. 2-6. Secure the element. I can see the chest rise. Okay, Dr. Vidya, I think there is a second evaluation. Okay.
can we awaken the patient or you want to proceed, Dr. Vidya?
Sir, actually, she's IUGR with doctor changes, sir, so we have to do the case, sir. Can't postpone.
Okay, I think she's just coming out of subscription. Just give 50 milligrams of bacteria. Yes, 1.5, okay, 1.5.
And this was this for this. Oh my God, I thought you should say your energy. Just couldn't remember the LMA part.
Yeah, that's what. Anyway, well, let's see, it's aspirate.
I don't think so. It's suction and
Timing out please, can you do the time out please?
Now the present ECG is sinus rhythm. Our pulse rate is 120, BP has come to 130 by 88, saturation is 94, and the EQ has sustained now 38.
Okay, refrigeration is here, right?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
I'm a hand maintaining, please don't connect on made to the six.
Anthraquarium.
Yeah, please deliver the baby.
Yes, sir.
15 mg anthraquarium.
Yes, sir. Do you need any fundal pressure, doctor?
No, sir, it's coming, sir.
Give oxytocin 3 units, no, slowly. 3 units.
Dr. Sunil, we'll stop here a moment. Yeah. Okay. So here, if you see, once the senior help has arrived, then a lot of things have changed. I think first, Dr. Sunil was very calm and composed. He was not agitated. He said to remove the pillow, position the head and neck properly, thought of the supraglottic device. The only thing is, could we have chosen a second generation supraglottic device? That would have been a better option. Probably it wasn't available there. That was the one thing which I could think of here. But a couple of things which I want to state here is, once a senior help comes, the situation is calmer, so the thinking is more in sequence. So immediately 2 attempts have already been done. So he suggested placing a supraglottic device, and with a supraglottic device, we were able to maintain oxygenation. The second important thing is that he checked with the obstetrician. So at this point, it is very important to find out whether it is necessary to wake the patient up or proceed with the surgery. The obstetrician wanted to proceed with the surgery. So we have a big list of things which we need to plan before we decide whether to proceed or wake up the patient, which we'll discuss in the end when we're talking about the key points. So fetal condition is one of the indications to proceed with the surgery. At the same time, the airway was also well secured and the oxygenation was adequate. So that was why the decision was made to proceed with the surgery. Another thing very specific, Dr. Sunil pointed out, was to give 15 milligrams of atracurium. So again, if you see, as we go through the guidelines in the later part, you will find that sequentially each of these steps is very, very important to make sure that ventilation through a supraglottic device is adequate. So muscle relaxation needs to be adequate. It has to be properly seated. And if it is a second generation device, risk of aspiration will be much lesser. Dr. Manokant, what you want to add? Anything else to this?
No, I think those were the major points. So only thing I want to, so the primary anesthetist attempted to mask ventilate with oral airway, but that was not successful. So, and once the senior help has arrived, they changed over to LMA. Yeah, ideal second generation LMA is ideal because you have a suctioning port
We didn't
for the
have that.
esophageal contents.
Mask ventilation also, I think once you're finding it difficult, you were holding it with 2 hands.
Yeah.
And then the technician was ventilating it.
Yeah,
which
so that was
also
the good part. Yeah,
That was a good thing which happened at that point of time.
true.
We will finish the rest of the scenario.
Yeah.
I think for benefit we just give microdosal. Okay.
Is the uterus okay?
Yes, sir, it's retracting, sir.
Okay. Already 8 mg.
Dr. Abgar is good, baby is active.
Cord blood, are they necessary, doctor? Do you think we need to do cord blood gas and
Sir,
unnecessary?
as you said,
Yeah, we are sending, sir.
Okay. Monica, do you think we need to counsel the family?
Yeah, I think we should leave the family.
Leaving, because there is a possibility that patient might have aspirated, because that is almost 12 to 65, and Please plaster the eyes.
But I hope everything is fine, sir. I suctioned well. But let's see.
Yeah. Do you think we need to give metronidazole?
Metrogen, okay, we'll give.
Give 500 milligrams of metrogen. And surgery is over, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just check the instrument, sister. I'm closing. I'm checking the.
Can you do the sign off, please?
Doctor, there is no acidosis. Lactate is normal.
Great. Thanks, doctor.
It's done, sir.
Sign off.
Instrument count is correct. The instruments are counted.
Okay.
Sign out, please. Yeah. So basically, I want the family to be there in the counseling room, and there is a possibility that we may have to continue ventilation for a short while. We need to anticipate risk of aspiration. So the plan is to shift her to ICU. We will not the routine. I don't want her to be in the recovery room. We'll shift her to ICU.
We'll continue the antibiotic. Metrogen and
Because stats are still around 94%. We may have to give NIV or BiPAP for a short while. And need patients we may have to do or just X-ray and other things as well. So we'll just counsel the family about it. All on the same page?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So once she is fully awake, then will be extubate. Okay. Manokant, you're asking about putting a tube again through this element.
Yeah, I thought
We will discuss about it later on. Okay.
Okay.
So meanwhile, I don't want you to again extubate down. Let me fully awake.
Okay.
Just cut off sevoflurane. Yes. Give 100% oxygen. I'll get the counselor. You can join me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, that was a very nice example of excellent communication and explaining to the team and also having a proper plan. So this is a patient who is aspirated, and at the end of it, you see how the anesthetist, the senior anesthetist involved has explained that, okay, we take care of aspiration now. What medication, what investigations, what is the plan? Are we going to extubate? After that, are we going to shift to ICU? And another important thing to notice, he was also talking about patient counseling, which is again very, very important. One thing we can discuss here is about intubation through the LMA. You said, Dr. Sunil, we will discuss it later. So I'm sure everyone is curious to know what is your opinion on intubation through the LMA?
I have the firm belief that yes, even though we had passed classic LMA, not a second generation LMA, but ventilation was good, stats were building up, ETCO2 trace was good. So one principle which I feel firmly is don't lose what you have in hand, because when the patient is stable, when the saturations have come up, when ETCO2 trace is good, it is better to continue rather than attempting, because many a times the laryngeal mask, at least about, if you look at the statistics in the several studies, the laryngeal mask may not be exactly at the center of glottis. It may be a little tilted left or the sightward. And when you try to insert a tube, you may hit the cord and patient can go into laryngeal spasm, and all these things might happen. So do not lose what you have in hand. Unless you have a fiber optic scope and long surgery is going to take some time. You're not able to adequately ventilate, or patient is having building of carbon dioxide, then yes, you may consider. But at this juncture, when the patient's ventilation is good, air exchange is good, do not lose what you have in hand.
Totally agreed. Don't use what you already have in hand. That's a very important point to take, because I think some people do have a tendency, like they feel the LMA is an insecure airway, and then they are worried, and then they try to pass in the endotracheal tube through that, and then it ends up causing more trauma, bleeding, edema, and they tend to convert a can ventilate situation into a cannot ventilate situation. So especially blind passage through a supraglottic airway of an endotracheal tube is not recommended in parturients because of their friable upper airway. It has to be under fiber optic guidance, preferably.
Yeah, true, I agree.
Dr. Manokant?
Yeah, I agree with most of the times, but yeah, so this is a very natural tendency to pass the tube through the LMA events, and we have to avoid the temptation. So totally agree with that point. And yeah, so maybe just for the benefit of the audience, some of our discussions were not very prominent in the video. So the senior consultant was asking us to give some dexamethasone, some dexasteroid, and then also give Metrogyl for aspiration pneumonitis, and we also gave some ondansetron in that video. So that's the part I wanted to just clear it out. And Then family counseling is another important aspect. So you can sometimes there may be again a temptation on the providers to choose to keep quiet, because if you don't tell this outside, they may never know. Imagine that you are not shifting the patient to the ICU, and maybe you choose to extubate in the OT or remove the LMA in the OT because saturations were around 94, 95. And after 1 or 24 to 48 hours, if the patient develops pneumonia, you can just cover it up. But that should not be our approach. So it is always better to just go and talk to the family and then to the patient and explain to them what has happened and what's done, and how you will manage it further and take them into confidence. So that's always a better approach.
So can we say, although there was an event, it was managed successfully, mainly because of very good teamwork, good leadership, excellent communication within the team. So all this helped us to get out of trouble. And we already discussed the points which we should have followed to prevent getting into trouble in the first place. So Dr. Sunil, shall I just wind it up with the algorithm?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'll stop.
We will just take a quick look at the Difficult Airway Society and OAA algorithm, as well as the IDA algorithm. And okay, so this discussion was about critical incidents in obstetric anesthesia, specifically applicable to an unanticipated difficult airway where aspiration also occurred. This is the master algorithm of the obstetric general anesthesia and failed tracheal intubation from the OAA and DAS. So if you look at safe obstetric general anesthesia, the very first step is pre-induction planning and preparation and a team discussion. Then you move on to a rapid sequence induction with consideration for face mask ventilation at pressures of 20 centimeters of water. Then you go on to a laryngoscopy with a maximum of 2 intubation attempts. The third intubation attempt is only by an experienced colleague. So in the pre-induction planning, this is what we discussed. We were discussing about airway assessment in this case, which was reasonable, but of course it was not done by the person who was anesthetizing could only do it in the last minute, just on the table. Fasting status, then again, we did not have much of discussion on it. We didn't have a history about the fasting status or about the antacid prophylaxis, but we have to ensure that we know this. And of course, intrauterine fetal resuscitation where it is applicable. And planning with the team. The WHO safety checklist, we saw that it was very nicely followed throughout. Identifying senior help, appropriate, all that was done. Planning equipment, there was a cursory request. A cursory look into whether difficult and failed intubation things were available. Probably we have to be more sure that all this is available in the operation theaters. And planning for discussion, waking up or proceeding with surgery. Rapid sequence induction. We already looked at all these things. Checking equipment. Yes, in this scenario, it went on very well. All the equipment, airway equipment, suction, everything was checked. Optimizing the position and left uterine displacement. So there was no discussion about left uterine displacement, and optimizing position was not done till the senior help arrived. Pre-oxygenation was done. That was good. Cricoid pressure was missed. Delivering appropriate induction and neuromuscular blocking drug. Yes, that was given. Face mask ventilation was started a little later. Laryngoscopy, the first attempt, it was a poor view. So what is recommended when there is a poor view is to reduce or remove cricoid pressure, give external laryngeal manipulation, reposition the head and neck, and use bougie and stillet. So all these steps were not followed, which could have probably, if they were followed in the first or second intubation attempt itself, we could have secured the airway. It is a possibility. So once you do a laryngoscopy and you're able to intubate, you always have to verify successful tracheal intubation and you have to plan for extubation. In our scenario, there was a failure after 2 intubation attempts. So we move on to the obstetric failed tracheal intubation. So here the first step is to declare failed intubation. So this was not done. So we have to declare a failed intubation so everyone is aware of the magnitude of the problem. Call for help. Again, this was done at a much later stage. Maintain oxygenation. Okay, attempts were made with face mask ventilation and 2 people ventilation to maintain oxygenation. Supraglottic airway device placement. This was successful once senior help arrived. If this had not been successful, then it would have progressed into a worse situation of cannot intubate, cannot oxygenate, in which case we will have to go for front of neck access. And another point here is at every step, it is important to see if it is essential to wake up the patient or proceed with the surgery. Okay. So this part of it, if you see, is it necessary to wake up the patient? So the decision is made based on looking at all these factors. So before induction, we need to look at the maternal and fetal condition, the ability of the anesthetist, whether it is a novice or a senior anesthetist, the surgical factors, the presence of additional risk factors like obesity and aspiration risk, and whether it is feasible to give alternate anesthesia. So in our particular patient, if we go through all these conditions, was there a maternal compromise? No, there was no compromise. So we could have woken her up. But then was there a fetal compromise? Yes. So we decided to proceed because there was a fetal compromise. The anesthetist was a reasonably trained anesthetist. That was another reason it was proceeded. No obesity, not much of surgical factors. There is some amount of aspiration risk. But the thing is, alternative anesthesia could not have been planned because you all would have noticed when Dr. Sunil presented that this patient has already had a spine surgery done, posterior spinal stabilization done, I think from D10 to L4. So alternative anesthesia is not a feasibility. Even if we wake her up, we probably have to go for a fiber optic intubation and still give only general anesthesia. After the failed intubation, do we wake up or can we proceed? So in this case, we did manage to ventilate with the supraglottic device. And there was no laryngeal edema, stridor, or it was possible to ventilate the patient well. So that was the reason the surgery was proceeded with. So every time we are in a situation like this, we need to go through all these factors and decide whether to wake the patient up. Is that safer or is it okay to proceed with the surgery? A word about the our own difficult airway guidelines from IDA. As I said, there is a big call for help column in the very beginning of it. So it's very important to call for help. The IDA is different. That another very important point they've brought out is continue nasal oxygen using oxygen flow at 15 liters per minute. So it is very important in difficult airway scenarios to ensure apneic oxygenation. If you can't mask ventilate, you put in a nasal oxygen and connect it to a 15 liters per minute. So at least by apneic insufflation, some amount of oxygen will reach the patient's lungs. And the second part is what Dr. Sunil had already brought out. If you already have a secure airway device, do we have to fiddle around and intubate through it? If you have a secure supraglottic airway device, even if it is first generation, you're able to maintain saturation, you're able to ventilate adequately, then it is better to leave it as it is and allow the patient to recover. If it is a long surgery or if your supraglottic device is not in place, then you can use a fiber optic bronchoscope and see where the placement is and do a guided intubation through that. So the most important points are the 4 P's. We need to first of all plan, then we need to prepare, then we need to perform properly. And to perform properly, we will always need adequate practice. Thank you very much.